Breaking news from Thursday, the 18th of September, 2025. It was the first day back in Dáil Éireann for all of the politicians after their long summer holiday. Not only are they looking for more of a raise and of course more holiday time, I'm guessing, but also the Cane Corla herself, Verona Murphy, is aggressively pushing for hate speech laws and censorship bills to be rammed home to the Irish public. Let's listen.
Welcome back, everyone. And just before I take leaders' questions, I'd like to make a short statement. In recent times, we have witnessed an alarming rise in the serious threats and online abuse directed at a significant number of members of the Houses of the Oireachtas, of all parties and none, a phenomenon that can no longer be ignored. Not alone does it affect us as members, but also a significant percentage of our population. This abuse often emanates from unverified profiles on various online platforms which facilitate unsavoury discourse and foster unhealthy narratives that bear little resemblance to fact or reality. In my capacity as Ceann Comhairle, I have a duty to safeguard both this Assembly, its members and the wider public interest. This chamber must remain a secure environment for the conduct of parliamentary business. In addition to my concern for current members, I am concerned that this environment may deter decent people from entering public life. If we allow a culture of fear and intimidation to take root, we risk losing the very essence of democratic representation. It is incumbent upon us all to collectively defend the integrity of political debate and cultivate an environment that encourages participation without fear or reprisal. We must create a space where diverse views can be expressed safely and openly. Whilst the report commissioned from the Task Force of Safe Participation in Public Life 2024 identified pertinent issues, in my view, it now needs to be supplemented by concrete legislative proposals. The experiences of our counterparts in the UK, US and other democratic jurisdictions serve as a stark reminder of the potential consequences of inaction. We are not insulated from this global trend. And in the words of Barack Obama, our democracy is threatened when we take it for granted. I am therefore requesting a meeting with all party and group leaders with a view to formulating an appropriate consensus response to deal with this issue. Our constitutional obligations require us to protect our people from unjust attack, and we have a collective responsibility to uphold these principles. The challenges posed by social media platforms demand our immediate and cross-party attention. We must collaborate to protect the integrity of our political discourse, a commitment to discourse that is rigorous yet fair, impassioned yet principled, and consistently respectful is essential. As we embark on this term, I urge all members to reflect on the tone and tenure of deliberations. Thank you, members.
One of the worst things I've heard this entire year, they're trying to get platforms like YouTube, X, and people, creators that dissent the government, basically critique anything that they have to say, censored and banned from the internet. Thank God for the internet, because if we didn't have the internet, honestly, none of these news stories that I'm showing you from X or anything like that would be even allowed. None of the public would know about it. All we would have is the mainstream media showing their brainwashing and propaganda to the public. That's it, guys. There would be no actual independent research or showing of media. And this is kind of this sort of two-tier system that we have, okay? Because some crackpots are threatening people, now the entire internet has to be censored. It's kind of like the gun debate in the US, where they say one bad guy with a gun that goes and shoots up the place means that all citizens have to have their guns taken away, all great people. So it's like one crazy person using their platform to threaten violence and crazy, not free speech, basically. Now the people have to get their rights for free speech taken away, and we have to implement hate speech laws. I mean, it's this crazy two-tier system here. I don't understand how law-abiding people like myself and other creators are impacting the government like so heavily. They're obviously scared that something's going to happen. There's going to be a vote. Different people are going to come in. They've actually blocked Maria Steen and Nick Delahunty from running for government. This are obviously egregious things that not many people know about in the country, and we're just trying to wake people up to it. That's it. No threats of violence or anything. One crazy crackpot lady that was drinking too much wine on a Friday night, maybe she had a bad experience with somebody personally, she starts to spout off and start making death threats to people. That doesn't mean that the vast majority of good citizens of Ireland can't have their opinion on certain things. Then on top of it, of course, Kieran Cuckoldry from Virgin Media News has to say, oh, we have to bring in these laws. They have to double down as well on the mainstream media and say, of course, they're correct, because we don't want anyone getting hurt or anyone that doesn't want to get involved in politics to get into politics. All this protection for nothing.
Louise, was there any expansion on what exactly Verona Murphy was talking about, this kind of meeting to come up with a response? Had she a response in mind? Did she talk about legislation?
So what she was talking about was the fact that there was a task force on the safe participation in politics, and particularly it kind of focused on women, but there has been a lot of discussion about, people not wanting to get involved in politics because of this crazy level of abuse that's only getting worse. And what she was suggesting was that there's a lot of anonymous accounts on social media who can just go on, they say the most vile things, and they're anonymous.
No, that's a lie. They're basically trying to say that anonymous accounts, are causing hatred and division and threatening people. That's not the case, guys. It's people like myself and like 3 or 4 other creators in the country, along with loads of other ex-members, but loads of people like on YouTube and Instagram that have platforms now that can actually critique and argue different points that they're saying. They don't care about the anonymous accounts. That's a ruse. That's a ruse to bring in these hate speech laws and to bring in censorship. They don't care. Anon accounts mean nothing to these people. What it is people like myself and loads of other people that are coming in now and actually critiquing and saying, no, this isn't right, and we're changing public opinion. That's what's really happening.
And what she was suggesting is that perhaps after this task force on participation in politics, that there needs to be a legislative response. And this is something that we have heard from the government, in particular from Simon Harris, who, as you said earlier, has received a lot of threats recently and they've been well publicised. And I think he has made the decision to say, I'm not, staying quiet on this anymore, I'm speaking out. And I think that's probably, a good step forward, because I think for so long people were afraid of speaking about this because they just didn't want to be seen to be complaining. And he said he was going to go away, speak to his party, see what they could think about doing. And I think it should be done, like the Karen Corley was saying, on a cross-party basis, because this is not unique to any political party. This is happening across the spectrum, and it's really, like she said, dissuading people who could be really good politicians from getting involved. Because, looking at some of the nasty stuff that's said to not just Simon Harris, but to everyone, even to the backbench TDs, you'd wonder why anyone wants to get involved in this at all. And it's important that it looks like something is being done, but that is going to be very difficult to do.
Well, first of all, we don't know actually what threats were made against these people, because there's no actual evidence, guys. They haven't shown us texts, they haven't showed us phone calls, there's no evidence. So until the evidence is released, I'm not really sure I'm going to trust what the Simon Harris and all these people say, these threats that they're getting. I want to see some proof, first of all. Second of all, guys, when you're in the public eye or whatever, you put yourself out into the internet, let's say, you are going to receive some criticism. Okay, don't be such a narcissist to think that you're like above everybody, that you're this godly person that doesn't receive any criticism. That is unbelievable. And then of course you have all these politicians that are backing them up. This woman here from the Irish Independent, Irish Examiner, they're all the same. Irish Independent, News Talk, Virgin Media, whatever. They're all the exact same guys. Joe.ie, they're all the same and being complicit with helping bring in the censorship speech, which is just ridiculous because it's going to censor them as well. Gript Media said before, are these censorship laws, are they going to work for the mainstream media as well? Or is it just going to be for independent media? And of course, I'm independent media. It's just going to be basically for me going to prison, and then it'll be everybody else in the mainstream media allowed to have their say about whatever they want because they're funded by the government. They're given grants, 725 million to RTE2. Like, you think that RTE is going to be going against anything if they're getting funded 700 million a year? Come on. Now, the next video we have here is another breaking story from Belfast. And while Dáil and the Gardaí are concerned with trivial things like putting up flags and, little hate speech words and words on the internet, there's actual crazy crime going on. Okay, today we have an African man carrying a machete, spotted heading towards Dundonald, Ballybean approximately 30 minutes ago. So this was a news story, breaking news story. So you can clearly see a man at the back of the bus holding a machete between his legs, pretending like it's nothing, you know, like it's just another day in Ireland. Completely relaxed, unfazed. Of course, it's like he's carrying a hurley or something like that. You know, the hurley now that people used to carry when I was younger has now turned into the machete being carried during the day. Of course, I'm not sure what he's using it for, probably for nefarious acts. I mean, I'm sure that he's not using it to chop coconuts off trees or whatever. I'm not really sure what's going on there. But of course, the response to this was 30 minutes later, a massive police response. Emergency services came through and they attended a serious incident in Belfast city centre. 4 police cars and 2 ambulances attended the scene. Police also dispatched 3 armed response teams who were later stood down. Belfast Telegraph understands a weapon was reported to have been used during the incident as well. That means somebody shot at the guy or something, some crazy stuff happened. Absolutely crazy. Once again, there's crazy things going on. People running around with machetes. It could be Al-Shabaab, Al-Qaeda fractions, who knows? Or it could just be lunatics that like in the US, just absolute crazy, lawless lunatics. Who knows what's happening? But they're concerned about words in Dáil Éireann. Seems like a bit of a crazy double standard there. Also, the last breaking news story here is from 2 lads in South Dublin said they were harassed by Gardaí for putting up Irish flags. So detectives jumped out of their car, you know, with the lights on, with guns on them, and they're just saying, don't put them up, this kind of thing, questioning them, why are you putting up flags? Because, flags are so dangerous. But guys running around with machetes isn't. Words and flags are dangerous now, but machetes aren't. Another ridiculous story, of course, that they were concerned about the actual threats happening, not people just putting up flags, guys. We'd probably be getting somewhere, right? Breaking news story, of course, we have another one from Matt McCarthy on Virgin Media again with Kieran Cuckoldry talking about the threats on politicians and how social media has amplified them. And that's not the case whatsoever. What's happening in the last few months while they were off on holidays is that the people of Ireland have completely woken up. I mean, it's actually been really fast. I actually think we can save the country now because everyone's woken up super quick, way quicker than I thought, actually.
Threats are deplorable, and and we've all, I think everybody who's in public life has received some form of nasty commentary, mostly online. But I think it's also important to say, and I think this is universal, the vast majority of interactions that you have with the public on a daily and weekly basis are positive, constructive. Yes, people will criticize your position or argue your position or suggest something is your position that's not your position at all, and you can have robust debate. But to me, every day that you get to be elected by your community to serve is an honour, and I think it's really important that we put everything in context. Yes, there have been some very serious instances. They are a small minority of the interactions that political representatives face. In terms of what legislative proposals, look, we'll engage, of course, with the Cancorral and see what is being put forward. But I would be very wary about suggesting that there would be a layer of protection for politicians that isn't there for anybody else. I don't think I would support that at all. Or anything that would negate the ability of people to be very critical of me or anybody else in public life. At the end of the day, we are privileged to have this position, and one of the parts of our job is to take the concerns.
Literally the only politician I've heard ever say that. But Sinn Féin are obviously the same as Fine Fáil, Fine Gael. They're all 3 wings of the same dragon, honestly.
Public discourse and political discourse that maybe didn't exist before, to Niall's point.
Well, I don't know. I was on the local council from 1999, and there were always times when debates could get incredibly heated, and there was some debates in the Dáil over the years. I think the new element, of course, is social media, and it means that a randomer who might previously have been on a bar stool in their local and nobody would have paid much heed to them can now put up a video and get 1 million views and can say all sorts of things about us.
Ooh, very interesting. Seems like the online creators have hit a nerve right there. He wants to mock online creators. He says a randomer, a complete nobody. Basically, he's mocking people like myself and other people that make content and creators about politicians in Ireland. It says a randomer who previously would have been on their bar stool in their local pub, and nobody would have paid much heed to them. Nobody would have cared about them. Complete nobodies. They can now put up a video and get 1 million views. Thank God for the internet, because if we didn't have the internet, there'd be no critique whatsoever, and everything would be swept under the carpet. Hope you guys all enjoyed that. If you want to support me, hit the join link underneath the video so we can push back and keep pushing back against the mainstream media. We have 27 members now, so I greatly appreciate you all. I love you all so much for that. We're going to keep growing, and we're going to keep blowing up this channel so we can push back against these savages, because they know that the mainstream media is dead and their platforms are dying, and we are in charge now. We are the captain now. I'll see you in the next one, man. Peace.